So what do you miss most about being at school?
Probably just friends. Yeah.
Yeah, friends.
I still like the James Bond and Jason Bourne analogy.
What you're telling me is how important it is for me as a teacher to not only give you the why, but to make it important to you.
The websites are kind of getting boring.
So you have to do one sit-up?
Legitimate assignments where students have to work together. Now we've kind of narrowed it to 4 elements that they kind of kept hitting on over and over. And we just gave it the acronym ICCU. Jamie, I do like to talk about data. This study was done with many students.
A lot of teachers are going to gain from this if they choose to listen to us.
Welcome, physical educators. This is Thinking PE.
Because Phi-Ed is more than just fun and games.
I'm Stacy Nelson.
And I'm Jamie Seneca.
And it's our goal to dig deeper beyond the activities that make your class awesome.
So buckle up and join us on this journey.
Welcome to this episode of Thinking PE. Today, our focus, once again, is on creativity.
In part one of our podcast, we talked to our teachers, our elementary, our middle school, and our high school teacher of different ways to promote engagement by being creative with our content. And we found different ways to accommodate and differentiate to enhance that student engagement. And then, we've discovered some ways to collect that student engagement so we can see exactly what's working and potentially what's not working.
Jamie, I'm kind of a data nerd, and I've been collecting data all along as I went in my classes and trying to get what I can. And I've been doing surveys all along with my own students, so I'm limited to that data. But I found something really interesting today, and it fits right in with what we're talking here about today. This podcast is called Creativity with Content. And I've always been one that felt that we can be creative and teach at the same time. I did a survey of some of the activities I've had in my class thus far in the 6 weeks that I've been doing distance learning. And I was kind of surprised that some of the highest rated activities were the ones that we did content of some sort. Not real hard, wasn't long written tests. One of them was where I just have them take their pulse, resting heart rate, then they do it after an activity. They can see how it went up and ask them a question or two about it. They actually ranked that one of the highest rated of all my activities I've done, and that ranked right up there with the the superhero workouts and Jedi workouts and some of those. And the other one was actually just filling out the worksheet for the day. They actually ranked that pretty high. So it just shows me that we can add content to creativity. We don't have to just be creative, or we don't have to just keep kids busy. They actually like it a little bit better when there's something embedded in and we're not just keeping them busy. I think they see through that when you're just doing activities to keep them busy. I don't know, any thoughts there, or what are you thinking?
I got to tell you, you compare yourself to a data nerd. I think I'm going to go the route of this is more like a Jason Bourne, James Bond type operation that we did behind enemy lines. It's like a clandestine operation that we were able to, go directly to the students and see what it is that they want, because, in our heads, we think we know what they want. And in all reality, we did the best that we can with the distance learning and trying to create things that they wanted, but it was just awesome. And these kids, they were brutally honest and brutally honest in a good way to really give us that information that we needed on how to increase our engagement and what it is that they really wanted. I mean, we'll get into their interviews, but they really talked a lot about just the choice in what they're learning, learning new content, and it came right back to the relationships with their teachers, which was important as well.
That's fantastic. I still like the James Bond and Jason Bourne analogy. I'd love to run with that. That's well done. Oh.
So if you want to why don't you introduce these students to us, and then we'll get to their interviews.
So we've got some students that offered their time today. 3 of them, they're same as the ones that we've met before on the Connection podcast. There's a student, junior high student, Petra. We've got a high schooler, his name is Keegan, and the oldest sister who is in college in Wisconsin right now. She's doing distance learning, and her name is Tejal. I think we're going to take you right into the interview with them. And we'll stop it part way through when we have some great insights that they've discovered, and we'll kind of highlight those.
So what do you miss most about being at school?
Probably just friends. Yeah.
Yeah, friends.
You don't miss the teachers?
Not too much. No.
Well, I told you they'd be honest, Jamie.
That's, I think oftentimes, we have this this perception of ourselves, and that's just interesting to hear it from the kids, what they miss most.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're missing their friends the most, but we might not be making the effort or the opportunities for them to connect with their friends.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was hoping to gain from this, is maybe instead of spending as much time focusing on good curriculum, maybe find some good ways to pull the kids in and design an activity they can do together, even if it has to be something about school. Still, they could do it together or something, and get them engaged in each other, so they could be reuniting, at least virtually. So that's super interesting.
It's doable.
Are you learning more now with distance learning, or less, do you think?
I think just a little less. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was going to be my question right there, was, in your classes that you're taking, has it been a lot of review of stuff you already know, or are you actually learning something through new instruction?
Yeah. Still learning new stuff.
Yeah.
Middle school as well?
Yeah. Kind of, one class we kind of review, but otherwise, yeah, it's mostly new stuff.
I wanted to do a little focus, a few questions specifically on PE. What kinds of things are they having you do?
So
Lessons.
for my class right now, we have 4 categories, like strength, cardio, endurance, and stretching. So we just have to do one exercise from each of those every day, and we get to choose whatever we want from those exercises.
Where do you get your choices from?
You just got to pick anything. He gives you a few options, but you can just kind of anything from there that you think of. Doesn't necessarily like what he gives you, but yeah.
Then do you have to document that or turn that in or something?
Yeah. You just document that every day and then turn that in at the end of the week.
So you have to do one sit-up?
Well, he doesn't really, that's the thing. It doesn't really say how much you have to do of each. So, probably could do that. So it's very unstructured.
So how does that feel? You like it, being wide open like that, no stress, just basically a hoop to jump through, or how do you view that?
I think it's okay. I do my own workouts through football anyway, so I kind of able to do that. But it would be nice to have like some kind of structure. Give me something else to do. That would be fun or something. But yeah.
So then, with your lesson or your activities that you have there, an important question from a teacher standpoint is: do you understand the why? Do you understand as a student why you're choosing these activities? And maybe you have a little bit more knowledge with football or something like that. But do you understand the why?
Just kind of like to stay fit, I think. Other than kind of all I know. But. So
you haven't set like personal goals, or you're not working towards something. It's just a list. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds to me like it's more you just have to check these boxes to be done.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Now, how would you feel? Maybe you can't answer that, but how would you feel if they had you go to a website, that website showed you an animated let's just say the abs, how the abs work, how they're individually, we call it the abs, but it's all one muscle. And, it just taught you a bunch about the abs, how to most efficiently work the abs, if you wanted to work the uppers or the lowers, giving you just a bunch of teaching about that specific muscle. And then you had to do an ab workout, and then you had to actually report back that you learned something about the abs. Would that just feel like worse? Meaning, it's just a lot of busy work. Just let me let me do my 6 sit-ups and be done for the day? Or would you actually appreciate having to dive in, learn something, and report back on it?
I think, I mean, I kind of would enjoy that a little bit as like an athlete, but I don't think a lot of kids would really care like how their body works or stuff. But I mean, I think I would be okay with that. I don't know if I'd love to do that every day, but
Right.
I think it would be cool to learn some stuff sometime. But
Where they're actually teaching you something
Yeah, but
rather than. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, I was just going to say, believe it or not, I mean, I am taking a lot out of this because what you're telling me is how important it is for me as a teacher to not only give you the why, but to make it important to you so that it's personal for you, something that interests you, something that you want to do, something that you want to create. And kind of goes back to that art project, and we keep turning back to that, where if you choose the art that you want to create or whatever it is, and understand why you're doing something, it just becomes more relevant.
yeah.
And it just might not be super relevant to everybody. Some people might never care how their abs work, and others make a whole career out of making ab workouts for other people and making YouTube videos and getting, is it shredded? Is that the word now?
I think so.
Isn't that the word they're using? I looked on
Yeah.
YouTube. That's what it seems like. That's the new phrase. Look
Yeah.
like Keegan, get shredded. I think that was the last video I watched.
Yeah.
How about you, Petra? What kind of PE lessons are they doing?
So like, yeah, we have a document and then we record what we did. So he lets us pick from 2 websites that we can do. So like one's like videos and the other is just like a quick little workout you can do. And then you write down if you've done like 30 minutes or more of like, if you think you've been active for more than 30 minutes in the day. And so like, yeah, you write down your workout, and then if you like went for a bike ride or something, you'd write that down. And yeah, and then we have a personal goal that we write down, and then you can like change it each week or keep it the same. So
What is the goal? What is the goal oriented around? Physical fitness or anything, or what is it?
just like a personal goal. I mean, he's probably ideally looking for like something sports related or workout related, but it wasn't specific.
So like, give us an example what your goals are.
Mine is, so like I do wall ball with my lacrosse stick, so like get 100 in a row
Okay.
with that.
Okay. And then you practice that, and that counts as your activity time.
Yeah.
So wow, that is some pretty good insight from behind enemy lines on this clandestine operation. I got to tell you, one of the things that hit really, really hard right away is when we asked him, "Do you miss your teacher?" and he flat out said no. And
They all said no.
yeah, and it really caught me off guard. But it really makes you think, why is it they don't miss their teachers? And a piece of that is have we really put in the effort to build the relationships to a point where we have that connection that we hope that we have.
Right. And feeding right into that is that connection, not only with us as teachers, but they were hungry for that connection with each other. And they're looking for, I don't know if they're looking for assignments, but I think it would be super helpful if we could design assignments that either engage the student to the teacher somehow, where there's some definite back and forth needed. It's embedded in, it's not superficial, where the teacher's just saying, hey, nice job. But there's some dialogue back and forth where you're creating something together, or the same thing for students and students, trying to create legitimate assignments where students have to work together, not just that they can, which is, I guess, okay, because then they're engaged, but when they have to engage and create something together, I think we need, as teachers, really need to start being creative in that way.
And think of our gym classes. Think of the activities that we do in class. And if you have 30 kids in your class and you're going to do a volleyball unit and you play 6-on-6 volleyball on one court, you have destroyed engagement.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 12 kids playing, you've got 18 kids watching. So we develop small-sided games where we have groups of 4, 5, or 6 kids working together in small groups. And that goes the same whether it's a math class, a reading class, or a science class. It's that collaboration that takes place and that learning that takes place together in those small groups. And that's what these kids, I mean, that's what they're craving, is that small group is just that interaction.
I love what you just said there. I think we want to coin something there with distance learning, small-sided games. Well, how can we create small-sided games in a distance learning fashion? It's not easy. It's not, but I believe we're professionals. We have a huge community of very smart PE teachers. I really believe there's some stuff out there that we could make this happen if we really put our minds to it and want to be creative.
Yeah, and I think a big piece of it is what we're seeing is not being afraid to make mistakes. And we've been trying a lot of things, and that's awesome. And we may be finding a lot of things that aren't working, and that's good too. It's eventually we get that one that we have that breakthrough where we get that engagement that we're looking for.
Yeah, for sure. One of the other things, kind of a change of subject here, but I don't want to miss it, when Keegan mentioned about not understanding the why. And I think you highlighted, and I'd like you to talk about it because you kind of brought it up as they were talking about when he didn't understand the why behind it. Can you kind of riff on that a little bit?
Well, I think the important piece there is students understanding the why. In every game or every activity that we're playing is just give them the why. Why are we playing this cool game like a Star Wars tag or any a small-sided game? Is what are we working on? What are we trying to accomplish in this activity? And just give them the why is it important, or why are we doing this? Why are we learning this? And I think that's the part that he was missing there, is if he doesn't have the why, it's not personal at all.
Yeah. And then Petra was also mentioning that along with that it's got to be interesting. It needs to be something they are genuinely interested in. And if it's not, there's just some things that we have to teach kids that aren't interesting. I get it. And it's not going to be interesting to everybody, but I think that's what we get paid for, is to take the things that are not generally interesting and make them interesting. Find some way to engage the brain and create it, bring it at a different angle, or telling them the why, like you were just talking about, suddenly makes it more interesting when it's now applicable to their life.
A big piece of it here is we have to take everything in context and add context to our conversations, because there's been tremendous professional development. And we are experts in our gyms with accommodation, differentiation, personalized learning, challenge by choice, all of those things in our gyms. And now you put us in a distance learning setting, and we just haven't developed the skills yet to be able to accommodate those different learning styles, the different interests. If a kid's competitive, if a kid's just playing for recreation, or if a kid just wants to check the box that say they're done. We have not learned how to create that content that includes those types of choices.
Yeah. And I think just at the recording these podcasts, most of us are heading into the end of the school year. And I think it's going to be key that we, even just to finish strong, that we figure out a way to do a few of these things, because they all kind of hinted at the idea that what was fun at the beginning, the first week, oh, that was pretty cool. If you just have kids watching videos and all the teachers are just having the kids watch videos, eventually videos get boring. And eventually everything gets boring if you just repeat it over and over.
Everything runs its course.
Yeah.
Everybody listening right now, take your favorite game or the student's favorite activity that every time you play it, the gym goes wild, and play that game for 3 weeks straight and see what happens. Everything will run its course. It's that variety that we need.
Yeah. Well, along with that, that's the idea of we need to finish strong, but right now there's no guarantee come September that we're going to be going back to school. We're all hoping so, but if we have to start up next year from scratch without having these classes, we need to have thought about this over the summer and come in with a whole new approach to be creative and to make this thing flow. Take what we've learned from the last 7 weeks and apply it and go for it and not just duplicate, because the kids will get bored.
So we finished up running our special forces operation behind enemy lines, but now we're gonna step into the mind of a genius here. And we know that Thomas Edison tried 2,000 elements that did not work before he found the one way to make an incandescent light bulb. So we've written like 2,000 lesson plans looking to how to capture student engagement. And now in this next segment here, these kids, they found the elements that are going to make it work for us.
So yeah, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a fun segment. Let's take a listen.
I mean, how are you liking that? Is that just like enough, feels good, enough to keep you busy, or would you like to be taught more, some specific things?
Like the websites are kind of getting boring, you know, it's like doing a workout each day. Like I kind of like if you like gave us an activity to do or something.
Okay.
So yeah, I think like a activity like, I don't know, kicking a soccer ball or something, but just not like a workout because it gets a little boring.
Okay. I think, Jamie, you had said something like that after our last podcast with somebody or interview. You said, probably the answer is everything will run its course. You know, something might be really good, but if you just keep doing it, like you're saying, it's going to get old. You can have the greatest, I mean, we've seen some cool Avengers workouts, you know, or you're working out with the Avengers. It's really cool, but if you did that every day, all right, that's going to get old pretty quick. Anything we missed? Anything you can teach teachers that give teachers one little tidbit of here's how to make it better? Any ideas?
Even college professors can make things fun.
Okay, that's one I completely left out. Is the fun?
I think it just because it gets like we know, or I know I only have a month left, and so it's like, okay, I could do this, but if it were to continue, or just an excitement about learning, I think, especially when you're paying for your education, you want to be excited about it.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, it's just kind of lost a lot of that like enjoyment, I think, just from the social atmosphere in classes and stuff, and so kind of trying to find other ways to provide that, I guess.
Yeah, that's super insightful, T. That's a big. So it used to be a lot of the fun just came from being together in a classroom. It was really easy for a teacher even just say, hey, the four of you discussed that is way more fun than just sitting at home reading it. And now teachers really could put some effort into, let's use our creativity and somehow make this fun, whether it's with a group or just make it fun in other ways. What's the most fun assignment you've had from a teacher, or most creative so far?
Mine has just been creating my lesson for my first graders. Even though I won't get to teach it, it was still part of our curriculum to create our own lesson plan.
Yeah.
So that's like been the most engaging for me, because I got to kind of dig deeper in my brain and think about what would be more fun, and finding stuff that matches up with standards but is still more exciting than just doing a few worksheets. So
Yeah.
that was my most exciting assignment.
Can we dig into that just a little bit? That sounds like a fun assignment. Why? What made it fun? It was applicable to what you know you're going to you need to know, or try to think through that. What made it such a good assignment?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely interesting to me, because I want to be a teacher. So just learning and thinking more about how I would actually teach kids was definitely engaging for me. So something that just piques my interest for sure. And something different, or like using more than just reading a textbook or listening to a lecture. You're creating your own stuff, I would say, is probably the top two.
What's your most fun or creative assignment in any class?
I would say mine is in industrial tech. I mean, because that's a really hard class to do online, but done a really good job. So like we did like a made a 3D boat on a website, Tinkercad, and like different ways to make it fun, even though we don't have any tools or are able to make anything. So, yeah, I think.
So what was so fun about that is, again, that you got to create something?
Yeah.
Interesting. Did you have to like learn a new software to do it?
No, it's just a website. We used it in class before, so that was also nice. You know, we kind of already knew how to do it, but then able to do it at home too.
Okay. It allowed you to be, what made it so engaging or interesting to you?
I think just like being able to create it by myself and not having like any limits of like how big it needs to be or what it needs to look like. Just being able to think of it by myself.
So you had a lot of choice?
Yeah.
Manner. Interesting. That's good. You guys are good. A lot of teachers are going to gain from this if they choose to listen to us.
Well, Jamie, I really enjoy listening to students. I really enjoy when they can express with such clarity and give us as teachers such good nuggets to really hammer on a little bit. And going back to that piece that you talked about with Edison and discovering the element that worked, I think they've given us 4 elements that work for grabbing the student engagement. And we've come up with the ICCU as a way to remember it. The first one is interesting, making it interesting to students. The first C is giving students choice. The second C is allowing students to create their own stuff. And the U would be making it unique. But I think I want to just take a couple minutes and expand on those just a little bit. You want to talk about the first one being
Yeah, ICCU.
Making sure it's interesting.
ICCU, the interesting part is just making it interesting for the students, giving them the why, so that they understand what it is they're learning, and how does it apply to them. Why is it important? Why is it important to them?
Yeah, I think that's key. And the next element is a C for choice, giving students choice, allowing them to have more say, more power in what they learn. And I think we've discovered this. Any teacher that's allowed choice in their classroom seems to say the same thing. The engagement goes up. And I'm going to throw a quick piece in there because I had a discussion a little bit with Keegan since this interview. And now some time has gone by and it's getting close to the end of the school year and a lot of kids are dying out. And he was expressing a little bit of disinterest. And the words he chose were key to me. He talked about feeling powerless. He feels like he doesn't have the choice. It's just kind of, from what I gathered from him, the work just comes at him. He doesn't give a lot of feedback. There's not a lot of choice. And he's a great kid, so he's going to do the work anyway, and he's going to get a good grade, but not with a lot of enthusiasm. He'll just do it. And for a lot of kids, it's just going to grind them into the dirt. So I think adding choice adds power and adds excitement and adds engagement.
Yeah, it's that accommodation, that differentiation, that challenge by choice. So the next C here is create. So we have interesting, choice, create, allowing student creation. And the one thing that really came out is when we asked these 3 students, what was their favorite distance learning activity so far? And all 3 of them referenced something where they got to create something. Tejal, the middle school student, referenced an industrial tech project that she got to make something. Keegan likes to, as an athlete, create his own workout to focus on what he felt was important. And Petra, as a college student, actually going to college to be a teacher, and her favorite activity in distance learning as a college student was creating lessons. She liked to create those make-believe lessons that she was going to teach to a first grade class.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Just nailed it. And it was fun to hear those, even the excitement in their voices as they talked about them. It was fabulous. So the last one is you and making it unique. And this can be unique to you, unique to your students, taking something home from a conference and just personalizing it, making it unique, adapting it in some sort of way. And the big one for me that I'm seeing is just making sure it's not repeated over and over and over. Obviously, you can use games more than once and duplicate a couple times, but if you go do the same thing over and over, if all we're doing is sending videos home to kids, eventually that's going to wear out and we're going to wear them down.
Yeah, I agree. It just goes in. It goes into that piece where you take a lesson. We can find something on social media or whatever we see, and then we add our own personality to it. We add our own teaching style. We accommodate for our students' learning styles, and we make it unique to our settings.
Yeah. Now, we take these elements, and I think this is going to be good for all of us. But interviewing 3 students is one thing, and I think we got some great insights from. But to me, that's not enough data. And so we did a survey of several students, asking them similar questions, and we're going to kind of nerd out here and go to some charts and some graphs and really see what we can pull from a whole study on a larger body of students, so we can really dig into making sure that this small sample matches with the larger sample.
Yeah, crawling back from enemy lines here with the maps that we stole from the headquarters.
Jamie, I do like to talk about data. This study was done with many students, so it gives us a nice base for some study here. One thing I do want to point out, though, for any secondary teachers that are listening, this was weighted really heavily towards the elementary, 5th grade and lower, as far as the number of students that took this survey. So the first question I kind of wanted to go into that I found really interesting was, we found that 68% of the students surveyed said that they really were feeling like this distance learning was either more stressful or way more stressful. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, Jamie. What do you think is causing that kind of a visceral feeling with the students?
It can be linked to why did the Packers lose the NFC championship game last year? There are so many things that we can point our fingers at that went wrong, that didn't go in our favor. And I think it's the same thing here. It's way more stressful, and we can point to a number of things, be it technology, our structures at home, and the systems we have set in place there. So I think it's important to, rather than focus on all those things we can't control, you really, really hone in on the things that we have control over in our Phi Ed classes.
Yeah, I think that's super wise. And what would those be in your opinion? What can we control?
Well, in my opinion, now that we've got some insight from teachers and from the students alike, some of the things that they're craving is just that interaction with each other, with the students, and the ability to create. So, you go back to our ICCU, make our lessons interesting, give the students the choice, allow them to create and make it unique, make it our voice, and make it our face and our voice. So it's personal to those students.
Yeah. Wow. You just rattled off a whole bunch there in a quick couple of seconds there. That was loaded with good stuff.
And there's no, and in full disclosure, it's not going to be easy. And we talked about this before. We made a lot of mistakes up until this point, and we'll continue to make mistakes as we try to find those ways to make those lessons that are engaging and meaningful for the students. But that's why we try.
Yeah. I think another piece of this is we can control how seriously we take ourselves. If that's a good way to phrase that, we can put extra pressure on by the way we phrase things in our emails, by the way we phrase things in our assignments, by how upset we get if somebody's not going to do it, or how upset we get up with ourselves if we only have 50% of the our population taking, actually engaging. So I think some of those things can add or reduce stress, as well as how we interact with the students and the parents, for that matter.
Well, you have your class, and in that class, there's a student that's struggling. That student is stressed out during that period. What do? We accommodate, we differentiate, provide different challenges, help them. And we simply haven't built those skills yet. But by listening podcasts, by talking with other teachers, by trying new things, we start to develop those skills to be able to be more proactive in helping students versus reactive.
Yeah. And keep in mind that if almost 70% are feeling stressed, that's almost a third that are not. And to not forget that too, and to feel free to run with those students and add extra stuff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm getting questions from students, not all the time, I don't want to exaggerate it, but there are several students that say, hey, can you put more on there? I love doing these type of activities. Give me some more. And we can't be afraid to help those students as well.
I'll go back to the PLC model and the PLC questions. One of those questions is, what do we do with the students that already know?
Yeah.
How do you provide those additional challenges?
Yeah. I think sometimes they're getting overlooked in this process sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You want to cover another one, or otherwise I've got more?
Yeah. Keep it going.
All right.
Let you continue
Another
to nerd out
question.
here.
Yeah. Another question that came up that we asked was asking them if the lessons they're getting online are more or less engaging than the ones they get in school. And 81% are saying it's about the same or less. So we're not knocking the ball out of the park here with being super creative. And about 50% of them were at less engaging, definitely, or way less engaging. Any thoughts on that, or was that surprising to you?
It was. I would have thought, I felt that it was a lot less. What actually struck me was there was a few kids that answered way more engaging.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, so it was interesting just to think, who might those students be? And if you listen back to our last podcast when Steve was talking about the students that really dove into going to a national park and taking a selfie at the that was their assignment, was to go to a national park and explore, and they had to take a selfie at the park sign. And those kids really ate that up. Yeah.
And it's only like 6 or 8%, but those students are still there. Mm-hmm. If you have 6 or 8% and you have 670 students, that's quite a few students that love learning in a completely different way than what we've been traditionally giving them. And they're starting to thrive in this situation.
But we did capture that 50%. How can we make it more engaging? Let's go back to that ICCU. Interesting, choice, create, and unique.
Yeah, that's how we get them. And I don't know if we're doing a great job of it overall.
I think we're getting better. It's again, take everything in context. If you judge us on our first 2 weeks of distance learning versus our last 2 weeks, everybody's going to can look back and see how much they've grown.
Yeah, and to be honest, to even fully judge us too much on the first 8 weeks is, we got to do it with a lot of grace, because we're taking into account, we're not just distance learning here. There's a whole lot of things going on in this world that are affecting our ability. I mean, right now, to try to do more is almost counterproductive with what's going on in society right now. More is actually hurting. And so it's actually helpful to back off a little bit now and allow that stress part again. How seriously do I take ourselves, and ease up on the stress and become the helpers in this case with parents, instead of adding more stress to their life. So to judge us even on this full 8 weeks with all the other things that have been going on probably isn't fair. I guess to be judged would be, what do we take from this into the future?
Yeah,
that's where a fair judgment should come, where we should be able to look at this and look at the data and look at our own lessons and learn from it. And if we don't, then we should be judged, I suppose.
So before we wrap it up here, the last thing I'd like to chat about is these graphs on what students felt were important, what they really liked, and had them on a scale of 1 to 5 rank what it is that they liked.
Yeah, this data seemed to fit right along with our last 2 podcasts, with what the teachers were thinking and with what the Zeidlers were talking about.
Yeah, really drove home the point. Number one, the one thing that they really want, and this is all the students talking, is when they can chat or talk with their classmates online. And that's that personal connection that they're missing.
Yeah. And the second one was parallel with that, when they can have time interacting and connecting with their peers. And so that fits right into what we were just hearing in this last interview.
The third one that was really high there. So it really validated what our students talked about in the interview was the creativity part. Is the activities they liked the most was ones that they had to create or build something at home.
Yeah. And interesting enough, the lowest one out of all the types of activities we asked them about videos that are included in the lesson that don't include the teacher in the video, that the teacher did not create. And that ranked dead last. And that fits right in with that unique part that ICCU.
And
making it unique. Just put your own face on
making it unique. And again, take everything in context and provide some of that background to it. And if you look at the first 2 weeks when we were challenged with this distance learning, a lot of us just went online and we found the cool links of what looked really, really cool. And it was for those first couple of weeks to provide some kids some what we thought were meaningful activities. But as that gap of time increased, that the students didn't see us anymore, that's when it becomes more and more important that they hear our voice and they see our face.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That context piece you keep bringing up is, yeah, let's take all this with a grain of salt. Let's look at the big picture. And it doesn't mean you can't ever include a video without your face in it. By all means, that's not even what the students were saying. But just to keep in mind, that's what they like. And the other piece of this is, just because the students like it doesn't mean it's effective teaching. It's just something to keep in mind. I don't think full class sessions or just having students interact with each other on a video chat is really high content good teaching, but it is important to get that in there and find other ways to deliver the content. It's just interesting in this study to see where they're hungry and where they're craving.
Well, go to your Phi-Ed class at the beginning of every year. What lessons and what activities do you do to start the beginning of the year, the first couple of weeks? There are usually some cooperative games, team building type stuff, learn names, those sort of things to build relationships. And once you've developed those relationships, then we move into some more standard specific and content related activities and lessons.
Yep. And that's what you're saying we got to do now. And if it turns out we have to do that in the fall, it's going to be super interesting how we creatively build relationships in the beginning of the school year instead of at the end, for sure.
Pretty good wrap on a really complex topic.
Yeah. And we got another podcast coming up on creativity with another interview that I'm really excited about. So stay tuned for next week with that one when that one comes out. Until then, this is Stacy, over and out.
This is Jamie Seneca. I'm out. Search Thinking PE to find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and your favorite podcast platform. For more resources, go to www.thinkingpe.com. Thanks for listening.